Good morning, learners and educators. Sorry about the time delay, but then I just want to welcome you all to the mathematics literacy class. I am Mrs. Maile, and I will be presenting on the topic of measurements. Okay. Now, if we talk about measurements, it's like all around us. So what I mean is all around us, like the classroom that you are in right now, you want to know how big the classroom is. So then basically, what do you need to do? Which means I need to measure the size of the classroom for me to find out how big this classroom is. So that is part of measurement. So you are measuring, okay? And another example, let's say in your classroom, you want to tile the floor, okay? So basically, if you want to tile the floor, you need to know how many tiles that you must buy. But now, before you get to that part, you need to know how big your floor is, okay? So then, which means you need to find what is the area of that floor before you can even go and buy your tiles. So that is another example of measurements. And that's what we are going to look at. So what am I going to cover today? So basically, the topic of measurements, we have to start with the foundation, and that is the definition, okay? So we have to know what our definition means. If you know your definition, then it's easier for you to answer your questions correctly. So we're going to have a look at definitions and example of length, perimeter, area, and volume. Then after that, then we need to know what are the dimensions of perimeter, area, and volume. Then one thing about being in grade 12, you have to know how to change the subject of the formula. And basically in measurements, that is the bulk of it all. So you need to learn that technique on how to change the subject of the formula. Then finally, we are going to get the activity examples where I am going to combine all the concepts of measurements. Now, these activity examples, I got them from past papers. So we can begin with the first one. And I'm starting with length. So what is the definition of length? So it's a measurement between 2 points on a straight line. Okay? Measurements between 2 points on a straight line. So here is an example that I got from the Northwest paper. Okay, so let's have a look at what the question says. Below is the picture installed in a kitchen unit with a stove and fridge on the side. The length of the stove is 0.7 meter and that of the fridge is 0.8 meter. Area occupied by the kitchen unit is 8.4 square meters and it will not be tiled. So one thing about our papers, they also give you a picture so that you can know what the question is talking about. So what I see on this picture, there's a kitchen unit. And then I can see from on A, starting from where the kitchen unit starts, all the way before I get to the stove, that is a length A, okay? Then we get to the stove, and they already told us in our scenarios that the stove is 0.7 meters. Then from the stove to where the kitchen unit ends, that is length B. Then you get the length of the fridge, which is 0.8 meters. Now it says here, the length from X to Y that you see in blue there is the length of the whole kitchen. So therefore now you can just start using your imagination and thinking how this kitchen looks like. Now let's go to an example, 3.2.1. It says, the length of A is 0.1 meter more than the length of the fridge, and the length of B is 2 times the length of the stove. Now they say, determine the length of A. So what did they say about A? So they said the length of A is 0.1 more than the length of the fridge. More, what does more mean? More means we are adding. So when I get to here, A will be 0.1 meter plus the fridge, the length of the fridge. Now, where do I get the length of the fridge from? So you've got two options. It's either you can get it from the picture or you can get it where I highlighted there in yellow, 0.8 meters. So they say that the length is 0.1 meter plus the 0.8 meter, and the length is 0.9 meters. So what they say, in essence, the length of A is 0.9 meter. That distance from where the kitchen unit starts up until before where the stove is. So that is A. Okay. Now let's go to 3.21b. We must calculate the length of B. Okay. Now the length of B, what does the question say? It says the length of B is 2 times the length of the stove. So which means I need the length of the stove. And there I find it on my picture, that is 0.7 meters. And now they say it what? It's 2 times. So then I go B is 2 multiplied by the stove length. My stove length is 0.7 meters. Then I can also find it on my picture and also in my scenario. So therefore, it's 2 multiplied by 0.7 meters, which gives me 1.4 meter. So the length of B will be 1.4 meters. Now let's have a look at 3.2.2. It says now, determine the length of the kitchen floor indicated by the line XY. If it is 0.2 meter longer than the total length of the cupboards, stove, and fridge. So which means this length, X and Y, is 0.2 longer. What does longer mean? Which means I am adding on top of the cupboards, the length of the cupboards, the stove, and the fridge. Okay? So here we go. So I'm going to say 0.2 meters plus, that's my longer than. Cupboards, I need the length of the cupboards, the stove, and the fridge. Therefore, how much are my cupboards? Okay? Here, if you look at my cupboard, it's actually the 0.9 of A that we have and the 1.4 of B. Even if you can see in our diagram, those are where the cupboards are located. So that is the length that we need, okay? So this is the length of the cupboards. The length of the stove was already given, plus the length of the fridge. So when I add all of them together, it's 3.8. Now that 3.8 then, it must be longer, which means I am adding by 0.2, which means from X and Y, the length of the kitchen floor is 4 meters. So that is the concept of length. Now let's move on to perimeter. So perimeter. What is the definition of a perimeter? is the total distance around the outside shape of an object. Okay? All right, what do I mean by the outside shape? I don't know, when you used to be in primary, they used to teach you that trace around the object. And that is what is perimeter. Basically, you are just tracing around your object. And every time you keep on hitting a corner, you are adding and adding and adding. So let me make an example here. This question is from the MMAT Daily Activities, Term 2 work. Okay, it says, a diagram of the cricket pitch is shown below. Study the diagram and answer the questions that follow. Okay, now if I were to say to you, let's calculate the perimeter of the cricket pitch. What you will do, as I said, perimeter is what? The total distance around. So I'm going to trace around this cricket pitch. So there is my length. I'm going to start there. My length all around 22,56 meters plus 3,66 meters plus another 22,56 meters plus 3,66 meters. The total of that is called the perimeter. So now I've given you a simple rectangle, but even if you get something that is a complicated shape, all you have to do is just to trace along the outside of your object, and then you can get your perimeter. Okay. Now let's read the question below in blue. Calculate the perimeter of the running place during cricket overs. You may use the formula perimeter equals to 2 in brackets length plus width. Now, when they say use the formula, that is your starting point. You must use that formula, okay? So there is my formula. Okay, perimeter equals to 2 length plus width. So then I ask myself, what do I need in my formula? My formula requires length, and it also requires width. So I go to my drawing. So where is my running place? So this is my running place that the question is talking about. Now here they gave us a formula that we must use. So which means I need to know what is the length of this cricket place. If you can see at the bottom here, the distance from there to one end to the other is that the length is 17,68 meters. Then the width, which is your shorter side from there to there, the width is given as 3,66 meters. So I need to check, there is my length of 17,68 meters and 3,66 meters. Okay, so now it's easy for me, but one thing we need to be careful of, I have to make sure when I substitute into my formulas that my units are the same, which means I've got meters for length and I've got meters on width. Then I can use my formula. Okay, so let's substitute into the formula 2 multiply. Remember, this is just an invisible multiplication sign. So it's 2 multiply brackets 17,68 meter plus 3,66 meter. So I add my brackets first and they give me 21,34 meters. I'm going to multiply that by 2. Therefore, my perimeter will be 42,68 meters. It's important at your final answer, you must always have your unit. So that is perimeter. Now let's go to volume. Then now we get to area. So when we speak about the area, the definition is the amount of space occupied by a 2D shape of an object. Okay, what do I mean by 2D shape? 2D shape is an object that is flat. Like if we are going to have a look at the floor is flat, okay? It's flat. And then if we are looking at that area, why is it flat? Because now that is what we call a 2D surface, which means it's got two dimensions, which is the length and the width. So that is why it is called a 2D shape. And it's a flat surface. So now you want to know what is the area of that? What is the amount of space that covers the whole floor? So let's have a look at an example. A diagram, we're still on the cricket pitch. A diagram of the cricket pitch is shown below. Study the diagram and answer the questions that follow. All right. Now, if you can see on this cricket pitch of mine, I've highlighted yellow on it, okay? Because remember, area is a flat surface. So when you look at a cricket pitch, when you look at it from above, it's quite flat, okay? So it's my 2D shape. So the question states, calculate the area of the cricket pitch. You may use the formula area equals to length multiplied by width. So my first step, I put down the formula because I was instructed to use that formula. Area equals to length multiplied by width. So now in my diagram, I need to find where my length is. And I want the length of the cricket pitch. So here you need to be careful because if you can see here, I have the length of the running place from there to there, and then I've got the length of the cricket pitch. So you need to be aware when you read your question, what is your question talking about? So the length of the cricket pitch starts from one corner to the next. So that is the length of the cricket pitch. Now the length is 22,56 centimeter. And they want me to multiply, that's what the formula says, multiplied by the width of the cricket pitch. So the width is 3,66 meters. So before I can use my formula, like I said, you must make sure that your units are the same. So my length is in meters, my width is in meters. Then now I can substitute into the formula. So the length of 22,56 meters, I'm going to multiply it by the width of 3,66 meters, which will give me 82,571 square meters. Where is my square coming from? The 2D shape that we see there. So your area is always a squared unit. That's what happens because I use two dimensions, which is my length and my width, for me to calculate the area. So now let's look at volume. Now, when we look at a volume, we can make an example of a box, okay? So what is the definition of a volume? The amount of space occupied by a 3D shape of an object. So a 3D shape, it means now we have three dimensions. With area, we have two. Now here, we have another element or another dimension, okay? So if we can look at a box, it is a 3D shape because why? With the box, you've got the length of the box, the width of the box, and then you also have a height. So that is three dimensions that we are talking about. And now the volume is, we are trying to find out what we can fill inside this ball, in this box. So how much space is occupied by this box? So that is volume in essence. Sometimes if you look at your questions, volume can also be referred to as capacity of an object. So we use them interchangeably, okay? Then now let's have a look at an example of this one. So here I've got a pot, okay? So this one, I got it from a website from PEP. So this is what the pot looks like. Now this pot is got a height of 20 centimeter, okay? Then also it's got a radius of 5 centimeter. Now we want to know, calculate the volume of the pot. How much can I fill up in this pot? Okay. So use the formula, volume equals to pi multiplied by radius square multiplied by height. And just remember, with pi, you mustn't use the calculator button for pi. We normally give it to you as 3,142. Okay? So now let's put the formula in. Volume equals to pi multiplied by radius squared multiplied by height. So then, what is my radius? That is the first thing that I need, radius. So I go to my drawing. They said the radius is 5 centimeter. Then what do I need next? I need the height. Now, how much is my height? Look at the picture, 20 centimeter. So therefore, I need to look at my units. My radius is in centimeter. My height is in centimeter. Therefore, now I can use my formula because now all the units are the same. So then it's 3,142, which is my pi, multiplied by 5 squared, multiplied by 20. So then the answer is 1,571 cubic centimeter. Now, cubic centimeter, the 3 there, the cube, it's a representation of that 3D shape that I'm talking about the volume. If you can see, I did not use units when I was doing my sum in between. And that is okay. But just make sure on your final answer, you must always have your unit. So in essence, that is the volume. Now, as I've indicated here, I didn't want to use the formula, the units. So which means now I need to know area, is it a squared, and volume, cubic, and so forth. So now we are going to look at the dimensions of measurement. When I look at the dimensions of measurement, if I can start with perimeter, perimeter is one dimension, which means you can either have length or width or diameter. So that one is normal. You can use, for example, millimeters, centimeters, meters. Now for area, it's two-dimensional, which means you use 2 units, like the length and the width. For a circle, it's radius squared, which means every time you are asked a question about the area, your unit should be in square units, millimeter squared, centimeter squared, meter squared, and so forth. Then we've got volume, my other concept. Remember that it's 3-dimensional, which means length, width, and height. So which means for volume, when you're asked volume, to calculate the volume, your unit should always have a cube to it. Millimeter cube, centimeter cube, and meter cube. Now, I spoke about that one of the things you need to know is how to change the subject of the formula. And I know most learners struggle with changing the subject of the formula. And in most cases, in measurement, you will require at some question for you to change the subject of the formula. Okay? I'm still having the same example that we've been using about the cricket pitch. It says the perimeter of the cricket pitch is 52,44 meters. Now calculate the length of the cricket pitch. Use the formula perimeter equals to 2 in brackets length plus width. Okay. First step, put my formula down. Perimeter equals to 2 in brackets length plus width. Now let's have a look at what we are given. They gave us a perimeter of 52,44. So where there is perimeter, I put 52,44 equals to 2 multiply. What is the question want? We want the length. So the length, I've highlighted it in yellow. That is my target. Plus, I'm looking for the width. Now I go to my diagram. Where is the width of this cricket pitch? There it is. So the width is 3,66 meters. So there is my width. So in all, you have 52,44 equals to 2 multiplied by the length plus 3,66 meters. Okay. What I normally say is you need to look at your target. Now the target is the length. I've highlighted in yellow. So your main aim is for you to get length to be on its own, on one side. But now here I've got a problem. Length is bounded, it's inside a bracket. When something is inside the bracket, that will be the last step that you will do. So which means now I must get rid of all the things that are around the brackets. So what is outside the bracket? I have 2 multiply. If I'm multiplying on the one side, if I move this 2, I move it to the other side. If I'm multiplying on the one side, when I'm moving it, I am going to divide. Remember, the opposite of multiplication is division. So which means I will say 52,44 divided by 2. So when I've got that 52,44 divided by 2 equals to what is remaining now? Remember, I got rid of the multiplication by 2. So what remains is my target, the length, plus the 3,66. Now they can lose that bracket at this step. So once I get there, so I can solve 52,44 divided by 2. It gives me 26,22, which is equals to the length plus 3,66. Remember, my target is what? Length. Length still needs to be on its own. And right now, it's not on its own. So which means we must get rid of this 5 plus 3,66. It's a problem. Okay? So now we are adding on one side. So when I take this plus 3,66 to the other side, what is the opposite of a plus? I'm going to minus. So when I move it to the other side, it becomes a minus. So therefore, it's 26,22 that I previously had on my side minus the 3,66, which is equals to the length. And that was my target because I wanted length to be on its own. So therefore, the length of the cricket pitch is 22,56 meters. Now, as you've seen in the previous example, when you change the subject of the formula, you're always moving from one side to the next, one side. So what are the opposite signs when you are moving from one side to the next? So if you are given a plus, when you move to the other side, it becomes a minus. If on the one side you have multiplication, then on the other side you will have division. Now, if you are given an r squared, then on the other side, when you take it to the other side, it becomes a square root, learners. Let's remember that, because most of you make that mistake, and some of you write 2 multiplied by something. But r squared and b. R squared, when you move it to the other side, it becomes the square root. Now, let's say you are given a fraction and they say you multiply by 9/5. When you move it to the other side, you are still multiplying, but now you swap your fraction. So now your numerator becomes denominator and the denominator becomes the numerator. You have to know this, learners, how to change the subject of the formula. The actual activity. Now, what I did, I just gave you the background, like the basics. Now we're starting grade 12 work, where you are given a scenario, and then now you must answer your questions. All right, so what I did with the various activities that I have got, I took it from various question papers. So it's important for you to always look at previous question papers, okay? Therefore, you get to know how the questions are being asked. I basically took these activities from the past papers, especially from the September 2025. So it was last year's papers. So the first one I took here, activity 1, which is about the rectangular pole. I took it from the Limpopo paper 2. So let's have a look at the question, the scenario. Mr. Mohale wants to build a rectangular shaped swimming pool with dimensions 30 meter by 20 meter with 5 meter paving along its length and 8 meter along its width. Below is the picture of the swimming pool and its dimensions. So they gave us the picture of the pool, of the swimming pool, and then they also gave us the diagram of the pool. Now you cannot see the diagram of the pool. So what I did on my next slide, there is the diagram of the pool. All right. So they said the dimensions of the pool is 30 meter by 20 meter. And then they said the paving along the swimming pool is 8 meter along the length and 5 meter along the width. So here's my pool. They say it's got a length of 30 meter from the one corner to the next. That is the length of the pool. And then the width of the pool from one corner to the next, and it's given by 20 meters. Now, my yellow part that you can see around the pool, that is the paving that they're talking about. And what did they say about the paving? Is that it's 8 meters along my length. This is the length. So remember, the length is the longest part of my of the sides, né? The length. So that's why the 8 meter is along the length of the pool. And then they say the 5 meter, which is the shortest side, it's 5 meters along the width. So one thing we need to know, if one side is 8 meter, therefore the other side of the pool is also 8 meters. The sides must be the same. So here the width, if the width on this side is 5 meter on one side, which means also on the other side, the top side of the pool, it's also 5 meters along the width for the paving. Okay. So now let's have a look at example. We have said all we can about this picture we are given. So 3.2.1 says, determine the outside length and the outside width, which includes the paving area. So let's start first with the outside. So they ask us two things here. They ask us for the outside length, and they also asked us for the outside width. So I'm going to start with the outside length. What do I know about the outside length? It includes the paving area. So I must have the yellow part because that's my paving. So which means my length will start from there, from the paving all the way to the other side where the paving ends. So now I need to know what is the length of the paving along, and they said it's 8 meters. That is given. Now we are inside the pool. And what is the length of the pool? They say the length of that distance from that distance, it is also 8 meters. So now I'm going to add up all of my length. So it's going to be the 8 meters of the paving plus on the one side, the 30 meter of the paving plus the 8 meters, which is equals to 46 meters. So that is the length of the paving and the pool. All right, now let's get to the width. So the question states, what is the outside width? Now the width, it is made up of the 5 meter of the paving area plus the width of the pool, which is 20 meter, plus also the other side of the paving, which is 5 meters. So then the width of the outside width then is going to be the equals to 5 meter plus 20 meter plus 5 meter, which will give me 30 meters in total. Then let's go to 3.2.2. It says, you calculate the total area which needs to be paved. The area that needs to be paved, you may use the following formula. Area equals to length multiplied by breadth. So breadth is the same as width, okay? So if I were to look at this question, so they want where it needs to be paved. So they want the area of the yellow. That is my paving. Now, how will I get to the yellow? What I can do, I can find out what is the area of the pool and the paving. The area of the pool, the whole pool and the paving, because we've got that. Didn't we get it? We had said the length, it was 46 meters. The width was 30 meters. Just gonna write it down here. So the length was 46 meters of the pool and the paving, and the width was 30 meters. So I can do that. I can first find out what is the area of the pool and the paving. Then I can subtract the area of only the pool. Do I have the dimensions of the pool? Yes. They said the length of the pool is 30 meters, and then the width of the pool is 20 meters. Therefore, now I can find the paving, which is my yellow. So therefore, my starting point, it will be, how do I find the area of the paving? So it will be area paved will be equals to the area of the pool and paving minus the area of the pool. Which means, first of all, I need to find what is the area of the paving and the pool. So I go area of pool and paving. Now I'm going to say length multiplied by breadth. Now, when I look at this, remember, before I can substitute into my formula, I must make sure that my units are the same. So let's have a look at the length of the area and the pool, and we said it's what? 46 meters. So I put the 46 there. And the width of the area, the width of the pool and the paving is 30 meters. So I've got meter, then I can put into my formula. 46 meter multiplied by 30 meter. So that will give me 1,380 square meters. So that is the area, the red part that I'm talking about, if you can see on my diagram. So that is the area of the pool and the paving. Now we must get what? So I'm at my first step here, 1,380 square meters. So what do I still need? I still need to find the area of the pool on its own. Okay, so I need to find the area of the pool. So let's find the area of the pool. So the area of the pool is the length of the pool multiplied by the breadth of the pool. So what is the length of the pool? Let's look at the picture. We had said that the length is what? 30 meters. And then the width of the pool is 20 meters. So my units are the same. Meter with meter. So I can go 30 meters multiplied by 20 meters. So it will give me 600 square meters. Now that I've got the area of the pool, I can subtract it from the area of the pool and paving. So what am I going to be left with? Only the area of the paving, which is 780 square meters. Let's move on. Let's finish it off. So let's go to 3.2.3. It says, Mr. Mohali budgeted 145,000 for paving. If the rate for paving is 200 per square meter, determine if the money will be enough. So first of all, I need to find out how much is he going to pay for the paving? How much is it going to cost? So what is given is that we already in the previous question, we have said the area that needs to be paved is 780 square meters. Now they tell us for every 1 square meter, you are going to pay 200. Now I want to know for 780 square meter, how much are you going to pay? So all I do is just say 200 per square meter multiplied by the 780, which means his actual cost, it will cost him 156,000. Now, how much has he budgeted for? He budgeted for 145,000, which means his money will not be enough. Remember, they asked you a question. Determine if the money will be enough. So you must write your conclusion after your calculation whether it will be enough or not enough. Therefore, he needs 156,000, but he only budgeted 145,000, which means his money is not enough. Let's go to 3.2.4. 3.2.4, the depth of the pool is 1.8 meter all around. Calculate how much soil will be dug out to build the swimming pool. And now they will give you a formula. They say you may use this formula. Volume equals to length multiply by breadth multiply by the depth. Okay, depth. How deep is your pool? That's depth, né? So the pool is supposed to be 1.8 meter deep. So now how much should we dig out the soil? How much should we take out so that we can build this pool? Okay. So in essence, they're talking about the height. Okay. So when they talk about the depth in this example. So I've got my formula there. Volume equals to length multiply by breadth multiply by depth. Now, what are we talking about? We are talking about the pool. So where's my pool? There's my pool right along there. Now, the pool has a length of 30 meters and it's got the width of 20 meters. Now, they gave us another dimension, which is the depth. And they indicated that the depth is 1.8 meter. So there we go. Length is 30 meter, width 20 meter. And then, sorry about that, this is a mistake. Supposed to be 1.8 meter. Okay. So I put my formula down. Now the condition for substituting into the formula is that my units must be the same. So we need to do a little bit of a check. So here, my length is in meter. My width is in meter. And my depth is in meter. Now I can use the formula. So then it's 30. The length is 30 meter multiplied by 20 meter. That is my breadth or the width. Sorry about that. Breadth. We are so used to width so much. Okay. So then the length is 30 meter multiplied by the breadth, which is 20 meter, multiplied by the depth, which is 1.8 meter. So which means now the volume. So remember what the volume is what you fit inside. So now you are digging out the dirt, you're digging out the things that are inside, né? So that you can build your pool, okay? So that is the volume. So that is 1,080 cubic meter. So learners, you must understand in this question, sometimes they're not going to tell you calculate the volume. You must just know that when you dig for something, you know, you are trying to determine the volume, what is inside of that. So you must just remember to interpret this question in a logic way. All right, let's go to the second activity. And this one, I took it from the Western Cape, September paper 2, okay? So it's about a cylindrical drum. If you know it in Sotho, we call it tromolo. Yeah, okay. Now, let's read what this question is about. A cylindrical steel drum is used to store used oil and must be painted with red paint. The bottom part of the steel drum will not be painted. The diameter of the steel drum is 0.584 meter and the height is 89 centimeter. It takes 1 liter of paint to cover 3 square meters. Now, it is important, learners, that you must picture these things. If you are not picturing paper 2, you will be in trouble. So you have to imagine yourself seeing this drum there. So at least here, we are given the picture of the drum, what it looks like. Now, 3.2.1, it says, determine the radius of the drum. The radius, how do we find the radius? So I go look at what is given that I can use to find out how can I get this radius. What is given is the diameter of the steel drum, which is 0.584 meters. Okay? So that's that. So I can use the diameter. What do I know about the diameter and the radius? I know that if I'm given the diameter, I can get the radius. How do I do that? That radius is equals to diameter divided by 2. So if I were to look at a circle, okay, the diameter is from, it cuts across your circle. So that's your diameter. I'm just going to call it D. Now, what is the radius? Radius is nothing but half of the diameter. So my radius will be half of the diameter. Okay, so that will be my radius. So that's where that concept comes from. We are not giving it to you, learners. You are supposed to know it. Okay? So radius equals to diameter divided by 2. I'm just going to be a little bit off topic. Now, if they give you the radius and they say you must find the diameter. So therefore, the diameter will be equals to the radius multiplied by 2. So remember that. Supposed to know it, learners. Okay. Now let's go back to the question. So we said determine the radius of the drum. So we said radius equals to diameter divided by 2. So what is my diameter? So the diameter is 0.58 meter. So I'm going to take the 0.58 meters divide by 2, and that will give me 0.292 meters. Okay, so here they were not specific about what unit, what we should convert it to, so we just leave it as it is. So let's go to the next question. 3.2.2. Now, I know learners, when they start seeing 6 marks, 5 marks, they panic. Don't panic. Yeah? What I normally say is when you get to these 6-mark questions and 5-mark questions and you get stuck, you must always go back to your context and read it again. There you will find clues on what you must do. So don't ever panic. Okay. 3.2.2. 2 coats of paint will be applied to the drum. Calculate, rounded to the nearest liter, the amount of paint needed to paint the surface area of the steel drum. You may use the formula surface area of an open cylinder equals to 3.142 multiplied by radius squared plus 2 multiplied by 3.142 multiplied by the radius multiplied by the height. All right, what does the question require? It wants us to calculate volume. And that volume should be to the nearest liter. Okay? And what are you going to need? The surface area of an open cylinder. Okay? Now, what is important, we mustn't forget, is that you are going to apply 2 coats of paint. So at some point, you are going to multiply by 2.
Surface area is 3,142 multiplied by radius squared, I call it r squared, plus 2 multiplied by 3,142 multiplied by radius multiplied by height. So that is the first thing you are going to do. Find what is the surface area, the area that I need to paint on this drum. That's what they mean. Okay? Now I said to you, before anything else, before you substitute into the formula, you have to look at whether your units are the same. So let's go. What is required in my formula? I must find what? The radius. So let's have a look at what the radius, we got it from the previous example in 3.2.1, where we said the radius, if you look at the bottom, will be 0,292 meters. So I've got my radius there. Now what else do I need in my formula? So on this side, I already have the radius. So now I only need the height for me to get the surface area. So let's have a look at the height. So my height is 89 centimeters. Then I go and have a look. Are my units the same? So I've got meter for radius and I've got centimeter for height. It's a problem. I can't use my formula. So then, ma'am, which one do I choose? Because I'm given 2 options. You go back to your question. They want my answer in what? In liters. But even here, I don't even have liters. So I need a clue. So don't panic. You go back to your context. Or you know when they have notes or it's something bolded, that is where you are going to find your clue. So let's go look at our context because I don't know what to choose. Should I choose meter or centimeter? So then I go look at my context. If you see on the last sentence, it says 1 liter of paint covers 3 square meters. So that's your clue. So then definitely I know that my surface area should be in meters. So which means I now need to change what? My height. Because my radius is already in meters. So now I just need to change the height from centimeter to meters. So that is my first step. So then my height is 89 centimeter. I convert from centimeter to meter. So therefore I divide by 100. So it equals to 0,89 meters. So now I'm happy because my radius is 0,292 meters. My height is 0,89 meters. So I've got meter there and I've got meter there. Then now I can plug into my formula.
All right, so let's plug into our formula. So it's 3,142 multiplied by 0,292, and I'm squaring it. Don't forget to square it, okay? 0,92 meters. Let me just write that. Sorry, I deleted this. Let's remind ourselves. So I'm taking the radius of 0,292 meters and I square that. Then I plus 2 multiply by 3,142. Then I'm going to multiply by the radius again of 0,292 meters. And then I multiply by a height of 0,89 meters. All right, so once I'm there, I can actually break it up. I can first add up this portion, 3,142 multiplied by 0,292 squared will give me 0,267899 square meters. Then plus, now I can take this portion and multiply it together. 2 multiplied by 3,142 multiply by 0,292 multiply by 0,89. So when I multiply everything, it gives me 1,633,086 square meters, which means the surface area of this drum, I add the two together and they give me 1,900,985 square meter. So that is the surface, the area that you must paint on this drum. But what does my question want? It doesn't want square meters. It wants what? My answer must be in liters. So now you are stuck. Where do you go? Back to your context. What did we say? How can we get to the liters when I've got square meter? Then I go to my story. 1 liter of paint to cover 3 square meters. Okay? 1 liter of paint, it covers 3 square meters. What I can do this is I can put it in a ratio form. I can say 1 liter, the covers I put my ratio sign, and then 3 meter squared. So I went from making it a sentence and now it's only numbers. So let's have a look at it. So let's continue. Okay, now I've got 1 liter covers 3 ratio of 3 square meters. What does my question want? It wants something to the nearest liter. So my question mark, let me just rewrite it down again. So it's going to be 1 liter is equivalent to 3 meters squared. So my question, we want to calculate the liters. So my question mark is going to be on the liters. Okay? Then my ratio mark. Then now what is the area that I must paint? We got it from here, which is 1,900,985 square meters. So what are the conditions of cross multiplication? Because I'm going to use that. Yeah? So it says that I must have same units on one side. So there I've got liter, liter. And on the other side, I must also have same units, square meter and square meter. Then from there on, how do I going to do cross multiplication? Now I'm going to take the 1,900,85 square meter. I'm going to divide up, divide by 3 square meters and multiply across. So, which means it's going to be 1,90985 square meter divided by 3 square meter multiplied by 1 liter, which means I will need 0.63 liters to cover, to paint the area of 1,900,985 square meter. Now, I know some of you learners, you use the bow tie. It still works out the same, okay? So it still works out the same, this cross multiplication, okay? So now you must remember this area, it only covers the drum. But now we need what? We need 2 coats, which means again, I must paint this drum for the second time. So that's why for 2 coats, I'm going to take the 0.63 liter of 1 coat. I'm going to multiply it by 2, which means now for 2 coats, I'm going to need 1.27 liters of paint. Therefore, you have answered your question. All right. Let's go to the next question. 3.2.3. Mr. Cupido claims that the volume of the drum is 238,430,5 cubic centimeter. Verify showing all calculation if his claim is correct. You may use the formula volume equals to 3,142 multiplied Sorry about that. Radius squared multiplied by height. So I just put everything that we know about the question. So I just put it there at the top. The diameter is 0.584 meter. Radius is 0.29 meter. The height is 89 centimeter. And that 1 liter covers 3 square meters. So basically, I just summarized everything. So the question states, Mr. Cupido claims that the volume of the drum is 238,430.5 cubic centimeter. So we've got a claim here. So somebody claims that volume of the drum is 238,430.5 cubic centimeter. Now, whenever you've got a claim question, now they say verify whether the claim is correct or not. You must show your calculation, and therefore you must give us a conclusion about that. So there is a claim here. So when there is a claim, they say this volume is this much. Is it true or not? So you know claim questions now. It's like they're indirectly asking you to calculate. So they're just saying calculate the volume of the drum. After you calculated the volume of the drum, then you're going to say, is your answer the same as the claim or not? That's what it basically says. So you are proving a statement when you've got a claims question. Okay. So they gave us the formula. So we put the formula down. It says volume equals to 3,142 multiplied by radius squared. And I'm going to multiply by height. All right. So then I just wrote it there in black in abbreviated form, 3,142 multiplied by r squared multiplied by height. So what are the dimensions that I need from this? For me to get the volume, what do I need? I need the radius and I also need the height. Remember, before I can go and substitute into my formula, my radius must have the same unit and the height must have the same unit. So let's have a look at our units. So the radius is 0,292 meters. There we go. And the height is got 89 centimeter. So there's a problem already. I cannot use my formula yet because my radius is in meters and my height is in centimeter. So I must convert one of them. How do I know which one to convert? You go back to your question. It says the volume of the drum is 238,430.5 centimeter cube. That is your clue, centimeter. So which means when I use that formula, everything is supposed to be in centimeter. So let's have a look. So let's start with the radius. Now let's have a look at the radius. The radius is 0,292 meter. So that's my problem already. So I need to convert this meter to become centimeter. How do I do that? I multiply by 100. So that's why now here, my first start, it's the radius will be 0,292 meters multiplied by 100, and that will give me 29,2 centimeter. Now, my radius is in centimeter, 29,2 centimeter. Then what do I need again? I need the height. Now the height, let's have a look at the height. The height now, the height is 89 centimeter. So the height is correct. I don't have to do anything with it. It's just like that. Né? Because what do we need? Remember, the question says we need everything to be in centimeter cube. So now I can substitute into the formula because my radius is in centimeter and my height is in centimeter. So let's substitute into the formula. So it's going to be 3,142 multiplied by my radius, which is 29,2 centimeter, and I square them. Learners, you must remember that you must square, you must put your square and your unit in a bracket when you do substitution. Then I'm going to multiply. What is my height? The height is 89 centimeter. Now I go have a look. I've got centimeter for radius, centimeter for height. So now I can proceed and calculate. 3,142 multiplied by 29,2 centimeter, in brackets you square everything, multiply by 89 centimeter, and then it will give me 238,430,544 cubic centimeter. First of all, you must give me your 5 decimal numbers or the numbers that you see there. Nah? Okay. Now, once I'm there, then now I'm going back to my claim. What is the claim? Because now we calculated the actual volume. And the claim, we had said that the volume, Mr. Cupido said the volume is 238,430,5. So which means now this number that I have here, I must round it to 1 decimal to check whether Mr. Cupido is correct or not. So if I round to 1 decimal place, so which means it will give me 238,430,5 cubic centimeter. Therefore, Mr. Cupido's claim is correct. Therefore, you write your conclusion. Therefore, he is correct. I had already prepared activity 3. You will get the slides for activity 3, and you can see there I would have explained everything about that question. Okay. So right now, I just want to wrap up. When you're doing this section, what you need to know is that you need to know how to convert, because you know the bulk of paper 2 is about converting. So that is the fundamentals of paper 2, fundamentals of measurement. You must know how to convert your units. Then the second one is you need to know the definitions of your concepts like we spoke about. You need to know how to define length, perimeter, area, volume. And sometimes, you know, they say you must define it according to the context. So which means now you must speak about the story. So when they talk about the context, now you must speak about the scenario. Okay, like in this question that you see here of the cylindrical drum. So in your statement, okay, you have to mention something about the drum. When you give a definition of a radius, you have to mention something about the drum because the context is about the drum. So you must remember that. Then another one is, learners, you must know how to substitute into the formula, because you don't have to know the formula. We give the formula to you. So you must know how to substitute into the formula. And there's a condition on when you must substitute into the formula. And that is your units must be the same. Okay, you cannot substitute with different units. Your units must be the same when you substitute into the formula. And then the last concept that we can know is that You must know how to change the subject of the formula. That one, it is practice, learners. So I think because we still have some time, I can actually start with activity 3. Activity 3, I got it from the Eastern Cape, September 2025 paper. So you see, learners, I take a lot from from different places, because you must remember at the end of the year, your papers, they are being drafted by different people from different provinces. So it's good to check how each province asks questions. So all you must do is just practice, pass papers. Okay. So this one, the activity 3, it's from the Eastern Cape, September question paper 2. Now let's have a look. It's about a circular pool. And it says, the Rousseau family would like to install a new swimming pool before the hot summers. Annexure B shows the swimming pool that they want to install. The area of the pool is 65 square meters. Please note, 1 cubic meter equals to 1,000 liter. 1 gallon is equals to 3,785 liters. Now remember when I said to you, whenever you get stuck, you must look at those please note, NB, and bolded statements. So that's the part I was talking about. So whenever you get stuck, you must please go to your note. That is important. Okay. So what else can I see on this picture is that on the right-hand side, you've got the top view of the swimming pool. Then you've got the dimensions of the swimming pool, which has got a diameter, and it's also got a depth of 1,45 meter. Yes, at the bottom. So that is the depth, how deep my pool is. It's 1,45 meters. All right. I'm just going to skip 5.1.1 and I'm going to do 5.1.2. It says, calculate the radius of the swimming pool. Calculate the radius of the swimming pool. You may use the following formula. Area of a cylinder equals to pi multiplied by radius squared, where pi equals to 3,142. And that is 4 marks. Whenever something is 4 marks, you must work at it. Né? You can't give me two lines for 4 marks. Okay, so a little bit of work must go into this. 5.1.2. So we want to calculate the radius. And they gave us a formula, and they say that the area of this pool, the area of the pool is equals to pi multiplied by radius squared. So, and they want us to calculate what? The radius. How will I get to the radius? Now, this is what I was talking about, changing the subject of the formula. Okay, so let's substitute into the formula. So what is given, if I look at the context, the area of the pool is 65 square meters. So that's where here I'm going to put where the area is 65 square meters equals to what is pi? Pi is 3,142. Multiply, what do I need? The radius squared. So now I must solve for the radius. Because that's what we want. We want this per se, the radius. So it's 65 equals to 3,142 multiply by radius squared. So the first thing, I cannot get rid of this squared. I must get rid of this 3,142 that is around this r squared. So here I am multiplying by 3,142. If I take it to the other side, I will divide. Okay, so that's why here I've got 65 divided by 3,142. What is left over is r squared. So I solve 65 divided by 3,142. It gives me 20,687,4602. What is left over equals to r squared. But remember, they didn't ask us for radius squared. They asked us for only radius. So then my problem is the squared. How do I get rid of the squared? What is the opposite of the square? If you can remember from my previous slide, the opposite of r squared, you must find the square root. So therefore here, that's why I have the square root of 20,687,4602, which is equals to, now I'm getting rid of the square by using the square root. Therefore, my radius will be 4,55 meters. And learners, I'm going to end there. Thank you so much for listening in. Hopefully you understand what we did today. And I wish you all the best when you write. Thank you very much.